Welcome once again to Retire Smart Maryland with Prashant Sabapathi and Nick Innerbichler. I'm your host, Spike Spengel, and we're talking about your retirement planning solutions. Gentlemen, how are you doing this week?
Doing great, Spike.
Good,
how are you?
good. Unfortunately, though, we've got to talk about inflation and what inflation means to today's retiree. We know it's eating away at our purchasing power. We know what it feels like when we're going to the grocery store, when we're going to the gas pump all year long. But what does that mean to the duration of a really long retirement? I'm worried that retirees are feeling the pain, and today you guys wanted to talk about it because you want to offer some solutions as well, right?
Without a doubt. And, you know, we've had people come into our office and say, hey, I feel like I just don't have enough income coming in to deal with some of these higher prices. I mean, like you said, we're all feeling it. And this is a common thing that I'm sure a lot of our viewership is feeling. And I know it because you're coming in and you're telling us about it every single week. And so I think it's important that we spend some time talking about it and how to address it, because there are steps that you can take to combat inflation, especially when you're retired. But we have to talk about that today.
Nick, there are two kinds of people I want to talk about. One, folks who have been clients of yours, because you say you've got some real long-term people you've been with for a while. And then maybe also, if you could talk a little bit about people who are just calling in from the television show or from your other live events and so forth, the difference in the kinds of conversations you're having with folks. Let's start with people you've been with for a while.
Okay.
Is inflation been a concern? Have you been having to make big adjustments with them?
Not so much the long-time clients. They've been retired for a number of years. They've built their plan. They've used the Retire Smart roadmap to help them get on the right course. It's more so the newer people, right? It's as we're helping you plan to retire, it's building in cost adjustments that are larger than we've ever experienced. 40-year highs in inflation. And we hear about gas prices. That's the one I think we all feel every day as we drive to work or what have you. But it's food. I took my family to California this summer. Gas was expensive. A burger at the fast food restaurant was more expensive than I've ever seen. So it's making sure that that roadmap in the beginning is set up to cover those costs that are going to get higher and higher as
well, I mean, I've seen gas, I've seen travel, but I was darn right mad this weekend. My bag of coffee, I still like to make my coffee at home. I don't pull twice as much as it was a couple of months. Literally from $6 to $12. I'm like, this is out of control. And if you're retired and you're not bringing in more income, it's got to be worrisome.
You hit the nail on the head there when you said bringing in more income, right? So when we put together these custom tailored income for life plans for folks, what it's going to consist of is showing you where your income's actually going to be coming from each and every year. But more importantly, I think, is how we can get that income to actually increase in retirement. We're all used to working and hopefully getting a cost of living adjustment or a performance-based raise every year. When you're retired, why shouldn't you continue to get a raise every year? If there was a way to do that just using some of your retirement assets, wouldn't you want to know about that ahead of time? It's such an empowering feeling to not have to worry that much about inflation because your income increases in retirement. And not a lot of people know how to do that because they're just used to living on a fixed income in retirement. We got to be able to change that. And that's what we've been able to help a lot of folks do, especially in the last couple months here.
And I think the common misunderstanding about retirement is that you should take all of the risk out of your portfolio. But the risk is where you're going to keep up with inflation. We need money still invested. But when we sit down with our clients from the beginning, we're putting together that roadmap. And you know, we used to use about a 2.5% cost of living adjustment. That's just not high enough anymore. And when people come into this, I think the expectation is I have to retire and live on less. But why would anybody get up in the morning and go to work and make less money? I mean, we are kind of doing that right now, but we want to build in those higher costs. We want to build in a lot of fun too. And all of those things are just costing, unfortunately, more money for Americans today.
It's very hard to do though. Let's consider a family maybe right in the middle. $700,000 something in savings, the house pretty much paid off. Is there a lot of wiggle room for them to be able to earn more, to be able to take more risk? I mean, if you think about going into long-term care, one of the two of you in a household, you're going to eat away at that savings pretty quickly. And so to keep up with inflation, you might need to be taking a little bit more risk. And I just don't know where is the safe place to go right now.
So believe it or not, there's tools out there where you can actually protect some of your retirement investments and use it to create an income stream for yourself that actually is guaranteed to increase in retirement. And you can do that without taking any additional risks. Okay. It's really, really cool. And this is why we talk about 3-bucket planning in our office. Okay. Because I can appreciate exactly what you're saying is we got to be able to fight off inflation, but I don't want to take that additional risk because I don't want to see that 700,000 become 400,000, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a market like we're seeing this year, it's a really worrisome and scary thing to go through, but there's actually ways where you can protect some of your retirement investment and create an income that increases in retirement.
So a portion of it.
Yeah.
And I have done this myself where I take a look at what I've got and we kind of put all of our savings, all of our investments into a silo. We all put it into one place. But what you're saying is to portion it out, that we've got shorter term expenditures, our monthly bills and so forth. And then maybe money we're going to use 5 or 10 years from now. And then maybe the money we use 30 years down the road.
I was actually just meeting with somebody recently, and they worked for the federal government. So they had a thrift savings plan. They had about $1 million in their thrift savings plan when they came to us. And their concern was exactly the same as most of the people that we work with, which is when I retire, all I have is $1 million, and I got to make it last the rest of my lifetime, even if that's 20 or 30 more years. How do we do that without running out and without taking on too much risk? And so what we did is we set up these 3 buckets, and we showed them that by taking about 40%, about $400,000, and moving it over into a green bucket, that actually gave them enough income such that the $600,000 they had in their risk bucket was able to grow uninterrupted, to be able to generate the type of income that they wanted to have in retirement.
It's great. You're talking about solutions, though, and I almost want to pump the brakes, if you don't mind, a little bit. You do the Retire Smart roadmap for all of your clients.
That's right.
Maybe you can explain what those 5 elements exactly are.
Yeah. So before we get to the break here, just real quick, the Retire Smart roadmap, when we put this together, it consists of 5 different parts. Number 1 is a Social Security analysis. You got to get your Social Security collection strategy correct. And so one thing we do is called a Social Security timing report. The second thing is a portfolio stress test. You have to understand how much risk you're taking and whether or not that's too much risk based on your tolerance and based on your retirement plan. Number 3 is going to be that customized income for life plan. Number 4 is going to be the legacy plan and wealth transfer. And number 5 is going to be a tax analysis to understand how taxes are going to impact your retirement. So if you'd like to take a look at your own complimentary custom-tailored Retire Smart roadmap, this is your opportunity to pick up the phone and give us a call. It's 833-308-5200.
Prashant, real quick, but when we come back from the break, I think I'd like you to dive in a little bit more. Provide some clarity on an income for life plan and how we can help to address inflation.
All right, Nick, thank you for taking the lead on that. Folks, when we get back, we're going to go more into the Retire Smart roadmap and talk about why it is so important to take a look at things like taxes and inflation and, of course, the risk in your investments in regards to the inflation that's going on right now. So do yourself a favor. Call the phone number you see right here, 833-308-5200, or open up the camera on your phone and point it at the screen. Use that QR code on the bottom. When you click on that, it's going to take you directly to our landing page, and you can schedule your own 60-minute appointment immediately. But if you'd like to talk to the fellas first, that's totally fine as well. Call 833-308-5200. More with Prashant and Nick and Retire Smart Maryland right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland with Prashant, Nick, and Spike, and we're talking about your retirement planning needs, especially when it comes to inflation. It's been the worst inflation we've seen in almost 5 decades right now. Our Fed chair keeps talking about bringing the pain is the only way to bring this inflation down. I feel like the pain, unfortunately, though, is being felt like by millions of Americans like us. And you, though, provide the Retire Smart roadmap. There are 5 elements to it. And Nick, you said, let's break this down a little bit more. Why are these 5 elements, so helpful in being able to get our way through retirement? I mean, another roadmap? I'm worried about my grocery bill this week. How is this roadmap and income map going to help me?
Yeah, so when we put together this custom tailored income for life report, what it is when you visit our office, we have these big 75-inch TVs, and we'll put up your income plan. And what that income plan is going to show you is every source of income that you're going to have in retirement. So we have Social Security, maybe you have a pension, maybe you have a 401k, or maybe you have guaranteed income from somewhere else. We're able to map all this out and account for taxes to identify whether or not you have an income gap, right? And so the income gap is this idea that we're also used to, while we're working, it's all about how much income you have coming in versus how much expense you have going out. And if you really think about it, when you get to retirement, that doesn't change, does it, Nick?
Not at all. No, you probably have more things that you want to spend money on in retirement. Worked hard all these years to get to where you are. You are probably going to have to fill in that gap with whatever Social Security and your pension or whatever you might have, rental income. So that's why we put this plan together. We want people to see in black and white how clear their income for the rest of their life is going to be, right? And that's ultra important. It's like planning for vacation. It's not fun, right? Retirement is not fun planning, like you said before. But we want to make sure it is hard work.
And for most people out there, they've never done it before.
Yep.
They're going into retirement for the first time.
Exactly it.
But you guys do it in the offices every single day.
Getting back to this income plan, right? So, let's say you need $7,000 a month to retire, right? Because I want to bring this back to inflation, which I know is kind of top of mind for everybody. If you needed $7,000 a month to retire in the most fulfilling way possible, 12 years from now, that could be $14,000 a month based on how much inflation is going to be up there. And so you need to have a map showing you what your income is going to look like versus your expenses and taking the taxes out to make sure that you're always going to have enough. And that's exactly what the Income for Life plan is. Mm-hmm. It shows you expenses on one side, income on the other side, and you need to identify whether you have enough or you're short. We're going to help you with all that just by putting this custom plan together.
You're going to do that math for folks, and then you can turn up and down the dial of things like inflation to go, all right, well, if it stays at this rate, I mean, let's hope and assume that eventually it will start to go down. Yeah. We just don't know when.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. I mean, when we put these income plans together, one part of that is Social Security, right? Here's a really interesting thing. When Social Security gave out the cost of living adjustment this year, do you know what it was? It was 5.9%. The last inflation number I saw was well over 8%. So how about that? They gave us this great cost of living adjustment that doesn't actually keep up with inflation. If that happens year over year over year over year, how are you going to deal with that, right?
Plus, that cost of living adjustment is given to you in arrears, meaning the year is over. You spent that money last year. You're getting it now, and it's maybe helping you with some of the inflation that's happening this year.
Yeah, it's a huge concern. And so, didn't you say that you had a client come in recently that had like an old 401k, they were just retiring? Can you share how you were able to help them kind of not only protect, but also increase their income to deal with inflation a little bit?
Yeah, Prashant talked about it earlier. They were retiring. They'd been with us for some time, but they were still working. And it wasn't, they were younger when they first came to us. But they had an old 401k or their 401k, and we rolled it into an IRA. We protected it from the market because they were really concerned about what's going on right now with the stock market. And we were able to put it in something that is allowing her to defer it through a couple of years. Like you said, if we have 7 to 10 years where we may not need that money, she's fairly young, 64, she has the ability, time, to defer that account and pull from it in future years at a much higher rate of income. It's a great strategy, and not everybody takes advantage of it.
Another thing, though, about Social Security, as you're bringing it up, your confidence on Social Security being here 10 or 12. I know. I just put the spotlight
You're really
on you.
putting the spot. Yeah, look, I think that we have a huge debt problem in this country. Social Security has been in the red for several years, meaning it's paying out more in benefits than it's actually taking in taxes. And that's a huge concern. If Social Security ends up being reduced for you in the future, or heaven forbid, and I hope this isn't the case, but if it's not there, you're now responsible for creating your own income. How do you create your own Social Security benefit using your own money, right?
And
we have
there
to
are
be
a
able to
lot
talk
of
about
Americans. I've read a lot of statistics where 40 to 50% of retirees' income is actually coming from their Social Security.
Yeah.
And I'm just afraid that's too high a percentage.
Yeah, it's kind of worrisome. It's scary to think about, but we have to be able to plan for that. And so one of the tools that we have is this Social Security timing report. It's when you can come in the office, we'll put in your Social Security income benefits. So you bring in your Social Security statement, and we'll run you all of your different options for how to collect your Social Security. We'll show you if you collected it at 62 or 67 or 70, what it would look like. If you're married, it's even more of an important exercise to go through. Didn't you tell me you were doing an analysis? I thought this number was just out of control, but you said that the difference between the best election option and the worst election option for a couple you were meeting with was something like $250,000, $250,000 difference between collecting your Social Security optimally versus not. I mean, where I come from, $250,000 is a lot of money.
Listen, there's not a lot of education about Social Security, and it can be daunting. Most people want to take it as soon as possible, but that could backfire on them. As Prashant said, what if you're married? What if you want to start it at 62 and somebody predeceases much earlier than we expected? So there's not one easy answer. It's not 62, it's not 65, it's not 70. It's a personal decision, and you need to sit with the professionals that know how to tell you what's the difference between starting it early and starting it at 70, and how can I maximize? Ultimately, we want to get as much out of Social Security as we possibly can because we've paid into that benefit. It's ours to earn.
And it's not just for you, but it's for your spouse as well. You're sometimes making a decision for both of you, and you want to make sure it's optimized for as long as you both might live.
That's exactly it. And so, when it comes to Social Security, when it comes to putting this income plan together, there's so many different options. I kind of think about it as almost like a financial puzzle, and you got to make all these different puzzle pieces fit together, whether it's Social Security or managing your investments without taking on too much risk, coordinating that with your income and your taxes. We're going to help you do all of this, folks. You don't have to do it alone. But it really starts with you making that phone call. It's 833-308-5200. And when you come in to visit with us, we'll put together those 5 components that we talked about. But specifically, we'll dive deep into the Social Security timing report and the customized income plan to show you how to combat inflation and increase your income in retirement. Pick up the phone and give us a call.
We're going to continue talking about inflation and what you can do about it. Nick and Prashant have some solutions for you, at least some things you can try for your household. It's a little bit of hard work, but definite solutions for you folks right here in Maryland. Call the phone number you see right here, 833-308-5200, or you can use the QR code down on the bottom of the screen. Open up your camera and point it at the screen there, and you can go directly to their Calendly and schedule your own 60-minute complimentary appointment. More Retire Smart Maryland with Prashant and Nick right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland with Prashant, Nick, and myself, Spike, and we're talking about your retirement planning needs, especially with the inflation that's going on today. The Retire Smart Roadmap covers 5 different elements. We've talked a little bit about investing and markets and so forth. The tax element, the tax analysis. Look, I call my CPA, I do my tax every year. Why is looking at my taxes right now going to help me down the road?
So in retirement, most people believe that they're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Now, when we have Social Security and pensions for some people, maybe you don't have to draw as much money off your retirement accounts, your traditional 401ks or IRAs. But every dollar that you pull out of those adds to your taxable income for the year. So one of the strategies that we use to improve the tax liability for our clients is structuring Roth IRAs to be available to pull money from in retirement. You pull money out of, let's say you need to pull $10,000 a year and you have a Roth IRA, that's $10,000 that Uncle Sam does not tax. You pay taxes on it in the beginning so that as I'm done working and retired enjoying my lifestyle, then you don't have to pay taxes on that money. Every extra dollar can impact your living.
It sounds like you're saying the Roth IRA is totally tax-free.
Yeah, that's right, tax-free. Now, that's current, right? That could change.
Now, but the rub of it is so let's say I've got $500,000 in savings in a 401k.
Yep.
I have to convert that. The convert means I've got to pay my taxes right now.
Right.
So 20, 30% tax rate, wherever we're at, I've got to pay that up front.
Yep.
That's going to sting, right?
Yeah.
That's going to hurt. Or I'm going to see that in the account right now.
Yeah, I would rather do that while I'm still working, even though I might be in a higher bracket then, to lower my tax obligation in the future. Because if we're talking about inflation, inflation is the hidden tax. But if we're paying taxes on our IRAs as well, we're just paying a higher level of income. So we should do everything we can to reduce that.
I think it comes down to one very simple question. I'll ask both of you, okay? Do we think taxes are going to be lower in this country 10 years from now than they are today?
Absolutely not.
I mean, I look at, what is it, $38.6 trillion of national debt, and I see all this money in 401k accounts that have never, ever been taxed. I got to believe that the government's going to come after it by increasing tax rates in the future. And so when you think about that, if tax rates are going to be up in the future when you're retired, doesn't it make sense to pay some of those taxes today and convert it into a totally tax-free retirement for the future? I think that just makes a heck of a lot of sense.
And here's another element, and we're not big proponents of trying to time the market, but here's the fact, at least of right now of this show and this airing. The markets are down.
Yep.
So if you convert when the markets are down, that means you're paying less in tax on those accounts right now, correct?
And when the market's down, you have the opportunity to buy into in your tax-free account at a lower price, which means if you get more growth in the future, all of that growth now becomes tax-free. It's an excellent point.
Right. So it's not timing the market. It's just it's where the markets are right now. So you're taking advantage. So for people looking for something to actively do with the markets down and you're angry, you're upset, or you're worried, or you're frustrated, there is something you can do. You can do a Roth conversion. Now, Nick, let me ask you, do you do it all or nothing? I mean, you take all of this, so you've got a couple at home, they've got $800,000 in savings and all of their different retirement accounts. Are they supposed to change that all over right now?
No, that's dangerous. You know, we're sensitive to the fact that most people that we meet with feel like they pay too much in taxes already. So that's a what we want to make sure is that when we analyze their retirement accounts, where does it put them into another bracket? And we don't ever want to cross over that threshold. So if they have $800,000, maybe we do baby steps. It also depends on how much time they have until their RMD age. We haven't talked about any of that, but we want to make sure that we keep them in as low a tax bracket as possible every step along the way.
Well, and let's just mention that real quick. The RMD is the required minimum distribution. So eventually, on all these tax-deferred accounts, you're going to have to start taking out the required minimum, 3.5% or 3.75%, and then it goes up every single year. But so that's money that you've got to pay tax on. So that's coming for sure. Another thing I think a lot of Americans are surprised about is that their Social Security is actually taxed as well.
That's exactly right. So when you're collecting Social Security, part of that benefit that you're getting is actually federally taxable, okay? And then once you get to 72, which is the current age of the required minimum distribution, you're now required to take money out of those accounts, whether you need it or not. And it really creates something that we call the tax domino, okay? I wrote about this in my book last year when it came out, is the tax domino. And that's this idea that you might have Social Security and a pension. Now you take out a required minimum distribution that could increase your tax bracket, increase the amount of tax that you pay on the Social Security that you receive. And believe it or not, it could actually increase the cost of your Medicare Part B. And that's a whole other thing that people don't think about. And so it really creates this domino effect. And so when you asked in the beginning, why do I need to worry about planning my taxes 10 years from now? Well, this is actually it. Okay, this is exactly why you have to do that. And so it's time, folks, to get on the right page with your retirement with regards to taxes. With inflation being high right now, with the market being down, you could actually use this as a positive opportunity to take the appropriate steps to move forward. It all starts with putting together your Retire Smart roadmap today. That phone number is 833-308-5200. Call now, set up that initial no-cost visit with Nick, myself, and our team, and we will help you through that process.
Nick, Prashant, thank you so much for talking about solutions for inflation today. That's going to be all the time that we have. Thank you so much for watching. Call the phone number you see right here, 833-308-5200, so you can get your own Retire Smart roadmap. We'll be back again next week.